You know how it is, whatever you're doing, you're always looking for like a better way, right? A
Mm.
less cluttered workflow. And if you're in a medical clinic, dealing with all that patient information, the daily grind, well, that search for efficiency must be absolutely critical.
Oh, absolutely. For doctors and outpatient clinics, the sheer amount of information, the number of tasks,
Hmm.
it can just be overwhelming. They're juggling consultations, documenting everything meticulously, plus all the admin stuff.
Hmm.
Staying on top is, well, it's a real challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why today we're doing a deep dive into Citrus AI. From what we've gathered online, this is basically an AI-powered assistant designed specifically for doctors and all kinds of outpatient specialties, medical and surgical.
Right. And our mission here really is to unpack what Citrus AI actually promises to do.
Hmm.
We want to understand how it's supposed to, streamline the day-to-day clinic stuff, maybe improve how medical records are handled, and crucially, how it might tackle that big issue of doctor burnout.
Hmm. So we'll be digging into the information available on their site, looking at the features, the benefits they're highlighting, how it supposedly works, and maybe some of the FAQs doctors might have. Okay, so let's jump in. Citrus AI. They call it a cutting-edge AI-driven application. What's the core idea here?
Well, the central concept seems to be making the whole clinic workflow just smoother, more efficient.
Mhm.
Their materials suggest it can save doctors significant time and help organize uh, all aspects of patient care better. It's really about using AI to simplify those daily operational tasks.
Okay. And one of the first things they really seem to push is this idea of anonymizing patient records before they even get uploaded. Can you walk us through that? What does that actually involve?
Yeah, basically, before any patient record goes into the Citrus AI system, it automatically runs through a process that strips out any directly identifiable info. So we're talking names, addresses, specific contact details, that kind of thing.
Okay, got it. So why is that such a big deal right at the start?
Well, it hits on a couple of really vital points. First, obviously, data security. By removing those personal identifiers up front, you seriously lower the risk if there was ever a breach.
Yeah.
Sensitive patient info isn't exposed in the same way. And second, it's all about compliance.
Ah, well,
Features like this are pretty key for helping clinics meet those strict data privacy laws, like GDPR over in Europe and HIPAA here in the U.S.
right. Protecting patient privacy, non-negotiable. It's interesting they also mentioned it's easy to integrate this anonymization.
Yeah, that suggests they've tried to make it kind of seamless.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become just another admin headache for the clinic staff to deal with.
Makes sense. Okay, so the next big thing they talk about is this intelligent medical record search. Now that sounds like it could be really powerful. What kind of searches are we talking about?
So the info suggests it can handle searches for like specific objective stuff, think particular lab results or maybe findings from an MRI scan, but also more open-ended keyword searches. So you can look for broader trends in a patient's health over time.
Huh. So it's not just finding one specific lab value, but maybe seeing how, I don't know, how a patient's blood sugar has trended over the last year.
Exactly. And they describe it almost like you're having a conversation with the records. You can ask for specific numbers, but also explore how a condition has, say, progressed or responded to treatment.
Wow. That could save just a ton of time, couldn't it? Instead of a doctor manually flipping through pages or clicking through screens, they could just ask, show me all instances where blood pressure improved after starting medication X.
Precisely. The benefits they list are things like, much faster access to specific data points, the ability to analyze those patterns in a patient's journey, and ultimately getting actionable insights, stuff that helps make better decisions about treatment. Oh, and they also say you can export the results, which seems practical.
Okay. And they bring up security again with this search feature. How does that connect?
Well, it probably relates back to the fact that these searches are happening on data that's already been anonymized. So it's like an extra layer of privacy protection, even when you're drilling down into the details. Suggests security was kind of baked in at multiple levels.
Gotcha. Okay. Feature number 3, high-quality audio transcription. Now, on the surface, that sounds, well, like transcription, but what's the deeper angle here?
Right. It seems to go beyond just speech to text. They talk about transcribing entire patient consultations or even just short voice notes a doctor dictates and turning that directly into structured medical documentation. They mention general notes, but also customizable templates, specifically calling out SOAP notes.
SOAP notes. Okay, that's the standard format, right? Subjective, objective, assessment, plan. The organized way to document an encounter.
That's the one. So the idea that it could automatically populate those fields from a recording, well, that could be a huge efficiency booster. The benefits they list are pretty clear. less manual typing, I mean, which doctor wouldn't want that, potentially fewer errors, better quality records overall, and importantly, better compliance with documentation standards. Because those SO8 notes provide that structure, right? Automatically filling them in saves time and helps make sure everything critical gets captured consistently. That's vital for safety and just continuing care smoothly.
So instead of spending, 15, 20 minutes after each patient typing up detailed notes, the doctor could potentially have a pretty comprehensive record generated almost automatically from the visit itself.
That's the promise, yeah. It frees up doctor time, obviously, but also might cut down on those little mistakes that can creep in when you're typing fast, dealing with complex info, and juggling a packed schedule.
Okay, now the website does talk a bit about how Citrus works, outlining a 3-step process. Step 1 is data integration, upload, and anonymize health records. We've touched on the anonymization, but
Wow.
the description there initially mentions uploading your marketing data and connecting to CRMs and social media. That seems off for a doctor's clinic tool.
Yeah, that is a really important point to flag. While that specific bit might just be like generic website language they use elsewhere, in this context, Citrus AI for medical pros, that data integration step is clearly about uploading patient health records. The whole anonymization thing still applies, of course, but the data is medical info, definitely not marketing stuff. Seems like maybe some boilerplate text got mixed in there on the website.
Okay, that makes way more sense. So step 1 is getting the anonymized medical data in. What about steps 2 and 3? The info we found doesn't really detail those much, does it? It's a bit of a shame we don't have more on those steps. Based on the features, though, like step 2 is probably where the AI does its thing, right? Processing, indexing the anonymized data, using, I don't know, natural language processing, machine learning, whatever makes the search and transcription work.
That sounds logical.
And step 3 would then be the doctor actually using it via some interface, doing searches, getting the transcriptions back. That behind-the-scenes AI analysis is really where the value comes from, isn't it?
That's right. The material we have doesn't really spell out steps 2 and 3 like it does step 1.
Yep.
But yeah, we can pretty much deduce their function based on the features. Step 2 is likely the AI analyzing and organizing everything, making the text searchable, processing the audio. Step 3 is the doctor interacting with it, using those tools.
Okay, so even without the nitty-gritty of steps 2 and 3, we get the flow. Secure data, in AI magic happens, doctor uses the smart features, and the website does stress the outcomes of this whole process. Seamless analysis, huge time savings, and ultimately, better patient care.
Exactly. Those are the key payoffs from putting these features together. Streamlined access to info, less admin work. It should directly mean doctors have more time and, frankly, mental energy to focus on the patient in front of them and make good clinical calls.
And that leads us to something major: doctor burnout. It's a huge issue in healthcare today, and the Citrus AI site specifically mentions tackling it. How does the software supposedly help with that?
Well, they point to a few key ways. First, just automating those repetitive, time-sucking admin tasks. The detailed charting, digging for old lab results. Taking that off the doctor's plate is significant. Second, by making the workflow smoother, maybe having a more unified interface, it could reduce what they call cognitive overload, that mental drain from constantly switching between systems and complex processes.
Yeah, I can see that. Having everything easier to find and use, less mental juggling throughout a crazy busy day. Makes perfect sense.
And then, obviously, the time saved on admin directly becomes time available for actually talking with patients, examining them, thinking through their case. And finally, they suggest that if you're not spending hours after clinic catching up on documentation, it helps with, work-life balance.
Which is so critical for preventing burnout, isn't it? Just knowing you might actually leave work at a reasonable hour without this massive documentation backlog. That would be a huge relief for so many doctors.
Absolutely. By chipping away at those really draining, time-heavy parts of the job, tools like this aim to let doctors focus more on the parts they actually find meaningful, the reason they went into medicine, taking care of people.
Stepping back a bit, the website makes a pretty bold claim saying Citrus AI aims to revolutionize outpatient clinic management using AI. That's a strong word.
It is a strong word, yeah. But, when you stack up the features we've talked about, the secure data handling via anonymization, the smart search capabilities for finding info fast, automating documentation with transcription, you can see how it could lead to a pretty significant shift in how clinics run day to day. It all comes back to that core goal: streamline workflows, save time, organize patient care better.
They also briefly mention predictive analytics in their general features list. Now, it's not really detailed for the medical side in what we saw, but just generally, what kind of impact could that have in a clinic setting?
Well, even without specifics on how Citrus AI might use it, predictive analytics in general is about using past data to forecast future trends. So in a clinic, gosh, you could potentially use it for things like predicting appointment no-shows to optimize scheduling, maybe identifying patients at higher risk for certain conditions based on their history, or even forecasting staffing or supply needs based on expected patient volumes. The exact application here isn't clear from the materials, but the potential for more proactive planning is definitely there.
Okay, let's circle back to something that's just non-negotiable in healthcare. Data security and compliance. They hit on it again and again. Anonymization seems to be their main pillar for this.
Yeah, that really seems to be the foundation of their security approach, at least as presented. By making sure records are anonymized right at the point of entry, they dramatically cut the risk of exposing identifiable info. It's that proactive step that lets them talk about complying with GDPR and HIPAA, giving providers and patients some assurance that sensitive data is handled carefully.
Okay, so just to quickly recap what we've unpacked about Citrus AI in this deep dive. It's an AI tool for outpatient clinics, focusing on three main things. First, strong anonymization for security and compliance. Second, intelligent search to quickly find patient info and trends. And third, high-quality audio transcription to streamline documentation.
That sums it up nicely, and the overarching aim of all that is to make clinics run more efficiently day to day, and maybe just as importantly, help reduce some of that administrative burden that really contributes to doctor burnout.
Which, when you think about it, could create this positive cycle, right? Doctors get more time, maybe less stress, focus more on patients. Patients potentially get better, more focused care. It's about shifting the balance back from paperwork towards actual patient interaction and clinical thinking.
Exactly. Using tech to support the humans doing the caring so they can spend more energy on what really matters to the patient's health.
It definitely makes you wonder, as AI tools like this become more common, more integrated into healthcare workflows, what's the next big shift going to be? How else will doctors interact with data and tech to improve not just patient outcomes, but maybe their own well-being too? Feels like we're just scratching the surface, doesn't it?